Biopatrika, your very own science communication platform, brings science closer to you in many ways. We have all heard that a picture tells a million stories. And today, Scikonnect by Biopatrika welcomes the audience to our podcast on science illustration. I, Pragya Gupta, my co-host Nikhil Tulsian, and a very amazing intern Disha Mukherjee welcome a brilliant sci art expert from Scidart, Rafeeque Mavoor.
Welcome, Rafeeque, to our Scikonnect podcast series. We are quite thrilled to have you here. We have with us Rafeeque Mavoor, one of India's coolest science illustrators today. Rafeeque pursued his master's in chemistry from IISER Trivandrum, but then took an interesting turn in his career towards science storytelling and visualization. He has had a formal training in science illustration and has worked at Science Media Center in IISER Pune. So, Rafeeque, would you tell something about yourself and your journey to us?
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm very happy and excited to be here with Nikhil, Pragya, and Disha. And first of all, thanks Biopatrika for organizing a session like this. First of all, I'm sure that most of the audience will be very interested to know what is actually scientific illustration, how someone can become a scientific illustrator, and what are the possibilities an education is needed, or so many questions. So we will go through all of them. And let me introduce myself. As Nikhil said, I finished my master's from IISER Trivandrum in chemistry. And after that, I told my professor that I want to do scientific illustration as a career option. And he was very happy to support me. And I worked there for 2.5 years. Then I moved to IISER Pune Science Media Center. There I worked for 2.5 years. Right now, I came back to home to build a learning platform for all upcoming scientific illustrators as well as research students to learn principles of science visualization and graphic design.
Yeah.
So right now I am working as a freelance illustrator, as well as I'm putting my majority of my focus on building the learning platform. It is still in initial stage, so we'll talk about that as well. That is
definitely. We are looking forward to it.
So, Rafeeque, I mean, earlier you were playing with chemicals and compounds. Now you're playing with tools and digital art. So, what motivated you to make this transition?
I joined IISER Trivandrum in 2011. So I was very fortunate to join the institute at that time because the institute was very young. It just started a couple of years before. And there was room for growth in all aspects of the institute. So as students, we had opportunity to get involved in anything that we wanted. Like for me, I was always interested in design and arts, like generally visual arts. So when the institute was setting up all the departments like mess committee, cultural committee, and science club, things like that. So I always took part in all the design activities, like designing logos, designing other materials like posters, things like that, and designing videos for promo launch of cultural arts, things like that. So I think most of my focus was designing in logos for various initiatives within the institute. So that gave me a lot of room to understand basic design tools like Adobe Illustrator, Photoshop, things like that. So that was my start. So once I finished my master's in 2016, I was working in material chemistry, mainly metal organic frameworks. So when I finished my master's, I wanted to go for PhD in materials chemistry. So I came back home. So I took some time and I chose a country which I want to pursue PhD. Then I went back to my professor and I asked, can you support my application with your recommendation? So he said, okay, I'm happy to support, but do me a small favor, stay here for some time. One of my student, Dr. Shabnam, she's about to finish her PhD. She was writing her paper. So she created a molecule. which forms a DNA kind of helical structure in solution. So for that, they needed a 3D illustration. So she tried to come up with an illustration using PowerPoint. PowerPoint is the go-to tool for PhD students. I don't think anyone has explored the possibilities of PowerPoint as much as science PhD students. So she came up with an illustration, but the illustration was okay, but the majority of the 3D information was not there. I worked in the same lab during summer, so I know that it is the final result of her hard work over the 4+ years. So a professor knew that I was involved in few designing activities, so he asked, "Can you help her in drawing this illustration?" So I said, "I don't know any 3D illustration software, but I can try and draw the structure." So he said, "Take 3 days of time." So I went back and started searching for scientific illustration tutorials. There were very few tutorials which focus on scientific illustration. And luckily I came across a designing software where you can create 3D illustrations, which is from Google. Google made with the idea that 3D for everyone. So it is a very simple software. So we created the illustration. Professor was happy, and later she published the article. So at that time, when I was searching for these tutorials, I came to know that there are people dedicatedly working in this field who are known as scientific illustrators. And there are master's programs offered by universities outside India on scientific illustration. And I was very surprised to know that. And it was no doubt that I can become a better illustrator if I get an opportunity. So I went back to my professor and I said, "Sir, I decided not to do PhD. I may not want your recommendation right now." So he was surprised, and he asked, "What is your plan?" So I said, "I think there is a good opportunity in scientific illustration. I think I can help research students in in creating illustrations for their research papers and presentations, things like that." So he knew that there is a dedicated field and there are people working in this area, and he was associated with a lot of journals. So he knew very well about the field and how someone can get into it. So he said, "That is a good decision, but you need good experience. You will not be able to get a job immediately. You need a good portfolio." So I said, "Okay, there are institutes where they design educational materials for students." So I said, "I will join there as a intern or as a primary beginner level job, and I will attend design classes in an institute. And once I finish, and I will start applying that." So he said, "Why are you going there? You can stay with me and help me in making this art, my research papers." So he was associated with a lot of academic activities. Many administrative job was there. So once he got freed from all of that, he had more than 15 research publication need to be published immediately. So he said, "See, I have this many projects. Just help me in making the figures. I know you are learning. You take your time and learn." So it was a aha moment for me. I immediately said yes, and I joined there as a scientific assistant. So my job was to help in creating illustrations for the manuscript with professor, as well as if any need comes from his students. He had a very big group. And he also encouraged me to collaborate with other departments and other faculties. So that was the start. And how I took that decision with confidence, that I knew that many research students were struggling to create illustrations for manuscript. So when we did summer projects in various labs in the institute, I saw PhD students starting to work on an illustration in a PowerPoint, and they take 1 week, 2 week time to finalize an illustration. Especially in chemistry department, I know many PhD students are spending a lot of time in making illustration. Yeah, that was the moment I knew that there is a community that I can help.
Yes, as you've mentioned, there is a need for the R for science illustration, and you have founded your academy/company called Scidart. So how was the experience establishing it? And I've read that you have trained a lot of people as well.
Okay, so initially I knew that it is a problem. Actually, nobody is having enough time to take care of that and like start learning these design tools and getting explore the field really well. I was fortunate that I was having interest in that. So I can help many research students with my time, but it cannot be a solution. Like so, I'm pretty sure that if research students can learn on their own, they can save a lot of time. So that is the idea behind starting Scidart Academy. So it is an online academy where research students and upcoming science illustrators can come and learn scientific illustration. So far we have conducted multiple workshops, and we had around 350 students joining in all the various workshops. So like we have a long way to go. So yeah, that is the idea
That is
behind that.
amazing. The starting is more important, and I'm sure you, in coming years, you'll have many more students and illustrators joining you.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, at such a very young age, you have accomplished a lot. Like, we have followed your social media, and recently got to know that one of your pieces was selected for cover image for a very prestigious science journal. Congratulations for this accomplishment. So,
Thank you.
we would like to know that what is the process behind creating an illustration? Like, how do you start? Do you start with the handwritten sketches and take inputs from the researchers? So how do you do that?
Okay, when one lab finish their research work, they will they will have the need of creating illustration for the manuscript first of all. So 90% of the time you can communicate your idea with simple 2D illustrations. But if it is related to supramolecular chemistry or something related to protein chemistry, there will be need of 3D illustration, things like that. So they will have the idea in mind most of the times, but they will not have enough time to explore these design tools. So what I do, I like collaborate with research students and faculties. So when they are in need of creating illustrations, first and foremost, I can help them creating illustration on their own. So most of the time, I create illustrations for review articles and as a cover art illustration. So the work begins by getting to know what their actual research is, what is the main story of the research. So then I can start thinking of how that can be visually communicated. So when it is about creating a cover art that you have mentioned earlier, that is a cover art which got published in a JACS journal. So most of the time they will have an idea. So we will discuss upon that and we'll gradually build on that. And I will make a rough pencil drawing and I will ask them, is this enough? Like, is this efficiently communicating your idea, research story? So we don't want to miscommunicate anything. Like when it is about a cover art, you have a lot of artistic freedom. But if it is a illustration for manuscript, you have to be very cautious about communicating as scientifically accurate as possible.
So in short, like you bring their imagination to reality.
Yeah. So like so it is not a like I create an illustration and it is getting published. So like it is a back and forth process. So if you see an illustration as a first draft, it will be very much different from the final output. So it is a lot of suggestions, contributions and feedback from the researchers. So I am there as a person which make it happen. Like I have access to these design tools and I know this how something can be drawn. So it is a like very high collaborative process. Yeah, and I'm very happy to collaborate with many students and faculties.
Yes, we can see the excitement on your as you're talking. As you mentioned, there are various aspects for visualizing science and science communication, like illustrations, arts, cover arts, animations, and even 3D drawings. Which one is your favorite, and which one do you enjoy the most while creating one?
Nikhil, that is a good question. So basically, I find a lot of joy in creating 3D animations, like which can communicate for example, a pathway in a cellular biochemistry, for example. So we recently published an animation which talks about a finding from Dr. Sai Krishnan Kairat's lab at IISER Pune. So he found a protein molecule which cuts DNA in a very novel pathway. So it is a, like we start from a storyboard, and once we fix the storyboard, we start to build the 3D models. And then when the 3D models are ready, we fix the colors and shading and lighting, things like that. And we gradually build animation scene by scene, and we stitch it together to come up with a final animation. So it involves a lot of process. So that is a very enjoyable process, but it's a time-taking process. Yeah, 3D animation is. And also one thing I would like to mention here is there is a lab at University of Utah led by Dr. Janet Iwasa. Her lab's name is Animation Lab, and their focus is in creating 3D animations for communicating biochemistry, whatever happening inside a cell. So who are listening this, and if they are in doing PhD in biochemistry and have a very interest in doing 3D animation, can reach out to her. And her journey also is very inspiring. You can have a look at her TED talk. Once she finished her PhD, she got a fellowship to go to Hollywood and learn 3D animation. She learned 3D animation by going a studio which focus on making animation for a film. And she came back and she started a lab on her own. And yeah, so there is a very good progress in terms of visualizing science.
Yes,
Even,
so that TED Talk is quite famous by Janet Iwasa.
yeah.
So, Rafeeque, as you mentioned, there are a lot of playing tools in the during making of a illustration. You have to take care of the lighting, the color palette, and various color combinations. Many journals are specific and require the arts to be readable by all people, like specifically for colorblind. Do you have to take special care for the, like when you're doing red green or red blue, like, or what's the, like, how do you do it?
Yeah, Nikhil, that is a good question because most of us actually don't care about choosing colors which can be friendly for people who are color blind. So there was a study in 2011 or something where doctors were failing in huge numbers in diagnosing heart diseases. It was because they were using rainbow colors in the imaging. So they were failing in diagnosing the heart disease correctly. So they finally changed the color scheme to which can be read by all people. So color blindness is a very an important aspect. Like many people are colorblind, but we don't talk enough about that. So one of the things that you can consider is once you made an illustration, there are simulators online which can simulate how colorblind people will be seeing that particular image. There are different color blindness, and you just add your image there, and you can choose different type of color blindness and how they will be seeing. So if there are colors which looks like same and which need to be highlighted in different color, you can work on that. And one more important factor is, like, once you made an illustration, you have to have a look how it appears in black and white, because most of the time students and faculties print out it in black and white. So there also we can lose information if we don't choose right colors and contrast. Yeah.
Yes, I
A
had the
very,
same
very good
experience.
tip.
Okay, so like many people right now, they are very interested in taking up a career in science illustration. Like I have a few of my friends, they're very interested in Blender and Prism 3D, like working with it. So, but very few people have found their calling. And your academy provides training to the upcoming researchers. For a newbie into this field, can you provide some pro tips?
Okay, so when I began starting creating scientific illustration, there were very few people in India who were actually pursuing this as a career, and it was very hard to find tutorials as well. So for someone who is starting out right now, can have access to a lot of learning material online, but still it is not enough. Like so there are two ways actually you can become a scientific illustrator. First, go for a master's in scientific illustration, and there are programs in Australia, Canada, Netherlands, US, offering masters in scientific illustration or masters in medical visualization. So that is one way. So you can get into the field very quickly within 2 years, and that's one path. And second one is like you just build a portfolio. So that is the beauty of this job. Your portfolio is enough. Your portfolio will speak for you, right? So if someone contacts on LinkedIn or something, I would like to make an illustration, he won't be asking for what is your qualification. He will ask for, can you send few illustration that you have made? So
experience talks.
Yes, yeah. So if you are like if you don't have time or enough financial support to pursue a master's in scientific illustration, start building your portfolio. Send messages to PhD students who you are comfortable talking and collaborating. Ask them if they need an illustration, just ask them to send a message and create illustration, and gradually build and start learning Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop and Blender. So Scidart, the academy that we are trying to build, it is a platform. So currently there are many steps. So I am focusing on setting up the infrastructure. So I'll be one instructor there, but my main idea is to bring all the expertise. There are different people in India who are very talented and who have very high artistic skills than me. So I started talking to them. I will be bringing them together in the platform, and they will be offering workshops and courses. So currently we have the learning platform ready. We have the video hosting setup ready, and we have the certification system ready and payment system. There are various things. So my majority of focus is on that. And I started hosting this workshop on 3D illustration, which using Blender. So it will be running month to month, and also new workshops will be start coming in. Yeah, and also we are we are planning to launch a 1 month long on graphic designing and scientific visualization in December. Hopefully it will the details will be coming out, and there will be different illustrators coming and taking their teaching sessions.
That is great.
It looks like you are talking to a lot of people, collaborating with a lot of scientists and across the India. So do you frequently make illustrations for scientists, or you have other customers based like journalists or science weeklies, or what are your like customers like?
Yeah, so so Pragya, so as in research in scientific illustration also, we have various fields. Like my majority of focus in creating illustration for material chemistry and chemistry in general. So there are people who focusing on biological visualization only, and there are people who create beautiful designs like IPSA Jane, and there are different fields. So, and also within the field itself, you can choose to work with whom. Like if it can be a research institute, PhD students and faculties, it can be edutech companies. So far my main focus was building collaboration within academia. So I have done few illustrations outside academia, like for magazines and things like that. But there are only very few examples. But most of the time I direct to someone someone within my circles who can do illustration if it is related to magazines or things like that.
Yeah, I am sure you will, since you've been getting a lot of news promotion recently, I'm sure many people journalists, weeklies, and other magazines also will contact you for various illustrating arts.
Yeah, that is the beauty of networking actually. I have been getting messages from people in media as well, so they also want to know actually what this is about. Like, it is an emerging field in India, like what Biopatrika is doing. So building a system and a platform for upcoming science communicators, like, it is very young in India, but it has a very good bright future for sure, especially the online communication and education. Everything is booming right now, so there is a lot of scope for science communication and
Thank you,
science.
Rafeeque, for promoting us, promoting Scikonnect and Biopatrika. Yes, all our listeners, please follow Rafeeque for science illustration and join his upcoming classes. I'm sure you learn a lot about science illustration.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
There's a lot of
Thank
learning
you.
which goes on in like acquiring any kind of skill or establishing your own portfolio and institution. So, have you faced any sort of struggle during your journey? Do you want to recall any particular incident that was tough for you or which actually helped you in shaping your career?
So initially it was very hard to find learning materials online. So I wanted to do an MS, but it is at that time it was possible for me because it is highly expensive. So it was very hard to find learning materials online. So I had to spend a lot of time trying to find tutorials on illustration tool and finding out how that can be used for creating scientific illustration. So that was one of the main challenge, but I'm happy that it happened because I got to know much more about design tools. If I directly went to tutorials which is focusing on scientific illustration, I might not have learned that much. So right now there are a lot of resources online, but many of them are very expensive. So what Scidart is trying to build is a platform where any research student can come up and learn without bothering about the expenses involved. There will be very minimal fee which contribute to the maintenance of the platform and tutors coming in.
That is awesome. Scidart reducing cost, but increasing the illustrating and science visualization across India specifically, but I'm sure also across the globe.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Yes.
Rafeeque.
Thank you so
Thank you
much,
so much.
Rafeeque. Thank you for illuminating light on the art of expressing science. Very thankful that you joined us.
Well said, Pragya.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah.
Biopatrika.
It was a very good and amazing experience talking to you, Rafeeque. We could visualize your journey and the excitement behind your responses. Thank you again for joining us. And to our listeners, please tune into our various podcasts. And if you are interested in turning boring words into exciting art, please follow Rafeeque